Hello and welcome to Unleashed, the show that explores how to thrive as an independent professional. I'm your host, Will Bachman, and I'm here today with Deb Zahn, who is the founder of The Craft of Consulting. Deb is a coach who helps folks get started as independent consultants and help established consultants build their practice. Deb, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
So, Deb, this is fascinating. You have a background as a consultant. Tell us a little bit about how you came to be a coach to consultants.
You bet. So I started consulting just over a decade ago, and actually, my first job as a consultant was at a firm. So it was at that point a very small firm. I was, I think, their sixth or seventh person in their New York City office, and no one in the New York metropolitan area had heard of the firm. They didn't do the type of work I did. And there were lots of other firms that did the type of work I did. And so I had to learn how to build essentially a practice in, pretty difficult circumstances, and, floundered a bit at the beginning simply because I didn't know the business side of consulting. I just knew that I knew how to help people do things. And so I did that for about 9 years, and then I switched to become an independent consultant, still have a great relationship with the firm, and I've been doing that for just over a year. And how I became essentially a coach is almost out of necessity of other folks at my firm. So what would happen is they would hire really smart, seasoned professionals, and they would suddenly become a consultant, and they knew they had expertise that was valuable, but they again didn't know the business side of consulting. So they didn't know how to describe their value, how to get business, how to get a contract, how to negotiate tricky client situations. And what would happen is invariably somebody would say, "Oh, you should ask Deb that question. She'll help you figure that out." So I ended up coaching simply because I didn't like to see good people suffer. And when I decided to become an independent consultant, I thought I could help a lot more people and take that to scale if I had a business like the Craft of Consulting to do that.
And what I found interesting in our prior conversation, you have several different modes of delivery, right? So you have
Yep.
one-on-one coaching. You also have some courses that you've created. Tell us about kind of just the range of ways you deliver your coaching.
Sure. And, some of that sprang from the consulting work that I do. And so what I know about my clients is they need different things at different times, and they're all very different in how they want to get help. And so I didn't want to necessarily just have one way of delivering that. There's a number of things. So for folks that are like to be self-paced, want to learn on their own, can be very self-directed, I have an 8-module online course that's all about how to get consulting clients. And so that's something an individual could take, and it's something that a firm can use with its consultants who are responsible for going out and getting business, to help them figure out the ins and outs of how to do it, and to have tools that make it easier. So for example, if you need to figure out that networking email that everybody sends out, and there's really good versions of it and there's really bad versions of it, and I'm sure we've all gotten both. And so I have a template of the entire sequence just to make it easier. So you learn how to do it, you learn what's important, and then to make it easier, I have a template so that you have something that you can easily put together. So in that course, that's for somebody who really wants to do it on their own time, and at their own pace, or do it as a group within a firm.
Let's
And then
let's
if
let's mention just right now before we
Oh, you
forget,
bet.
if someone's interested in learning more about that, where can they go find it?
So you can find any information on anything I offer at craftofconsulting.com, and just click in the menu Get Help. And on the Get Help page, you'll see everything I offer. And there'll be, you just have to click a button and you can learn more about it.
You've got a whole series of courses there. Could you just quickly walk us through the different ones? I was really impressed looking at your website, the
Sure.
range of courses you put together.
So there's the main course, which is the, get more consulting clients faster. And that's the 8 module one. And then I also did some webinars that were live training webinars on how to become a consultant, how to get consulting clients, which is sort of an abbreviated version of the longer course. And a big one, because everybody kept asking me about it, which is how to price your consulting services. And so what I did is I did those live webinars. I got, 20 plus questions on each of them, and I recorded it. So essentially those are replays of the live training that I did, because there was a lot of people who told me, I can't attend at that time, but I want to participate in it. So you can also get those on the website. And then the other thing I do is there's some folks who need a little more hand-holding, direct support, but they don't necessarily need really intense one-on-one coaching. So what I have done for them is created a weekend retreat. So it starts on a Friday evening, it goes through the weekend. Of course, now, since we're in the COVID world, everything is virtual. And the intent of that is to get them ready very quickly, developing their plan on how they're going to get clients. So this is where they're going to develop, with great specificity what their market is. If they have a niche, they're going to have a niche. They're going to think through their value proposition, how they talk about what they do, everything through how they engage potential prospects and ultimately negotiate with them to close the deal. So that's a retreat that's very small number of people. So I never have more than 8 people on it. So everybody gets a lot of personal attention. And then for those that need a little bit more intensity, then I do have a limited number of slots that I do coaching. And coaching is one-on-one. It tends to be very flexible. I base what the coaching plan is on the unique circumstances of that person. We do a fit call because we have to make sure that we make sense to work together. And that can be, and I'll use an example of something I've been working on someone recently, someone who very quickly, because of the economy, had to very quickly become a consultant and had to very quickly get income in the door. So we figured out exactly what her value was, what her offerings are, how she's going to talk about it. We talked about, which prospects, how to segment her potential prospects, what type of outreach she's going to do to different ones, all the way through preparing her for when she has that first client meeting, prospective client meeting, through how to structure a proposal that is more likely not just going to end in a yes, but more likely end in them purchasing more value from you, and then how to overcome, objections to things like price and things like that. So it's very targeted to wherever the person is. There's somebody else that is in a very different spot. She's got more time to think through what she wants to do, but is a little overwhelmed by all of the possible things that she could possibly do. So that's really about making decisions and narrowing the field so that when you go out into your market, it's not going to be confusing. It's going to be really tailored, focused, and you know what you're doing.
Great. Just a somewhat of a side question, but I've had a number of people ask me about, how to create courses. How did you technically create your course? Did you use Teachable or some other kind of plugin? Like how did you record the videos?
Yeah, I did Teachable, and, fortunate that in my consulting career, I had done a lot of training, and of course, live training in an online course is very different. But, I relied on, things that I know about adult learning theory. And so I did a mix of, some of it is video, which if you've never done video before, can be tricky, but it can also be really engaging, and it can feel really intimate to the person watching it. So it's a mix of video, recorded webinars with slides, and then structured it so it's essentially after each module. So each module, which most of them are less than 15 minutes, because people have limited time to really do this. So most of them are less than 15 minutes. There's one that's a little bit longer. And after each one, there's a set of tools that you use to apply what you just learned. So if part of what you just learned is how to develop a value proposition or be able to describe in a compelling, coherent way what you can do for a client, there's a workbook that you use after that where you are actually going to go through your experience and your skills, etc., until you're able to frame it from a client's perspective. And you get a workbook for doing that. So what I really tried to do is, again, steal from what I knew worked when I work as a consultant and apply it to the course. But I would say the number one thing that was important was each step of the way to think of it from the perspective of the person who's taking it. What concerns them the most, what's going to grab people's attention, what is sort of a coherent journey that you're taking them through. So from one module to the next, it's not confusing why they're now doing something else. So I did what consultants do. I took a flip chart and I took Post-it notes because I'm really hands-on. You could do this on a computer. And I basically mapped out what the journey would be of the person who would be taking the course. And then I went out to people and talked with folks who were in different stages of their ability to get clients, got feedback, made changes, and I did that throughout the process. So by the end of it, I made sure that it was actually going to be relevant to who I want to purchase it.
That's great. And did you record these? Is it sort of PowerPoint pages with you kind of talking over it, or is it, or the videos of you, standing up, talking to the camera for the most part?
There are videos of me talking to the camera, and I'm only laughing because I did it in the summer and there was high humidity. So I was definitely paying attention to what my hair looked like, but it was videos of me. I did buy not a professional video recorder, but I did purchase a Canon camera that would take high definition. It would actually even do 4K. So I wanted to have it also feel very professional. It was then, and then the webinars were recorded using the software Camtasia, which I really like. That's how I also, the course was edited. I did it with a microphone so there would be good sound. And so those were recorded, me talking over those. So they would have a mix. Sometimes they would see my face, sometimes they would see webinar slides, and tried to keep it interesting by going back and forth between the two. So there's one module where there's both, and there's some module where there's one or the other.
That's great. So you work with some folks who are maybe coming out of an executive career and transitioning into consulting for the first time?
Yeah, so usually it's folks who have been in VP positions or above. Occasionally there are some folks who, were maybe one step down from VP, but usually it's VP to a CEO.
And what are some of the kind of most common questions you get, or maybe, what are some of the most common questions you get from folks at that stage?
Well, it's interesting. So I would say most of them fall into the category of how do I talk about what I do? So there was one person I coached when I was at the firm who, had run this huge multi-million-dollar organization. And she said, I feel like I'm walking around just saying to people, well, I do stuff, but she couldn't articulate it, and she couldn't articulate it from the perspective of what's valuable to the client. What is there a demand for in the market? So it's often what happens is, professionals, enter into this, they know that they have valuable expertise. Hopefully sometimes your confidence takes a hit at the beginning, in which case we talk about that. But it's really that piece of how you go from a job where you had a job title and you knew what you were supposed to do, to suddenly describing your value from the perspective of what somebody's willing to pay for. It usually falls into that category. And then often it is how you present it in a way that somebody is actually going to understand it and going to want to purchase it, and then how you navigate those, those tricky things, like if you're trying to, this was a question I got recently, that somebody was reaching out to folks within their network who, that person knew that they had a demand for what he could offer, and just had a really difficult time pivoting the conversation towards the transactional part of it, which is, hey, hire me. And so how do you navigate even things along those lines? I get quite a bit of that.
Yeah. What is your tip on that, navigating from that, oh, just sort of chit chatting, and then something comes up that you think you can do, and you want to transition it to more of a, oh, I could help you with that.
Yeah.
What's your suggested approach?
Well, the first thing is, so there's a few things. First thing is, before you get into the room with them, you have to prepare to do it. So, and I had this problem. Actually, my first client was someone I had known for years, had worked with in various capacities, but not anything like consultant client. And we kept going out, this back when we could be around each other. We kept going out for coffee and tea, and the only thing I would ever get is waterlogged because I was having so much tea and coffee. But what I realized I was doing wrong was, we were talking about her kids, we were talking about her dog, we were talking about things at her organization, but I had to do my homework to see, okay, what are the things that they are talking about in their organization? What's the language that they're using? Because I want to be able to mirror that, to show that I get it. What are the things that I know are happening in the environment that either present an opportunity or a threat to them? What are the things I think I could do to help them? So I had all of this homework that I had to do before I got into the room again. And then I was able to help direct the conversations. We talked about the dogs, we talked about the kids. And then I said, so here's something that's happening in the industry that I see. And then I had questions prepared that were specifically to get at what they need, what they had a demand for. So it wasn't, which I tell everybody, please never say this, what keeps you up at night, and vague sort of generic questions. It was, this is a profound shift that is happening in the market. What have you folks done so far to prepare for that? And now we're in a conversation where she's revealing gaps that they have, concerns that she has, the things that are actually that they need potentially some help with. And I had all of those questions prepared and ready, and I had practiced them. So the first time I opened my mouth and said them wasn't when I was in front of her. And then I was able to pivot and say, I actually had an idea about that. And I presented an option they could explore. And then I just said, and I'd love to help you with that. And that's how I got my first client. What I told the other person is she just felt awkward, or he felt really awkward having to suddenly pivot with folks that he was friends with. And so what I told him was, then be awkward. Like, I've done this, make a joke about it. And I'd actually in meetings say, okay, now I gotta be a consultant. And then you can easily pivot those. If it's folks that you don't know, you go to the heart of what matters to them, what they just told you matters to them, and things that you might be able to do to help them. And then don't hesitate saying, go all the way there and say, I'd love to help you with this. Here's how I think I could help you.
Yeah, here, I'll jump in here and offer that, one thing that I heard from David A. Fields on this, he calls this the turn, when you're
Yes.
transitioning from a social conversation to, something comes up where they have a need and you want to offer your help. So his suggestion on this is, I think it's 8 words. It's, would you be open to a separate conversation on how we could help you with this, XYZ.
Yeah.
And it's that I've used that successfully several times now since I learned it from David.
Yeah. It's a great way to do it, because
Yeah.
the asking permission part,
Yeah.
psychologically feels really safe to people.
Yeah.
So it's a great way, and again, I'm in the healthcare space. We've actually used that in some of our work. It's a great way to safely pivot without them feeling like, oh my gosh, the used car salesman just showed up.
Right. Right. What are some things that, let's say someone is an executive interested in becoming a consultant, but maybe they're not doing it tomorrow. So they have some runway. They're thinking, okay, I can take early retirement in 2 years, or I want to, I'm going to move across the country in a year and I can't stay with this job. So they have some time frame in mind. What are some things that someone should do to prepare to transition to consulting if they have some runway, if they have a year or two?
Yeah.
What are some things that you would recommend?
Yeah, that's the optimal. Like that's the dream, right? So I would say a few things. So one is if when they transition to becoming a consultant, they need income. So if they're retired and they're doing fine and they just want to do it because they want to stay in the game, that's great. But if you need income, then build a financial cushion, because depending on how things start off for you, depending on what the market is like, depending on how you or what pricing model you pick, there's lots of reasons that there might be a delay in terms of getting income in your pocket. So I always tell people, if you have the luxury of doing this, have a financial cushion. If you can do 3-month cushion, that's great. 6 to 12 months is even better. But that's something I would definitely tell someone to do. The other thing is I would tell them to think very carefully about not just what they want their work life to be like, but what they want their life overall to be like. Because if ultimately, they also have things in their life that matter to them. They're still, they're caring for an elderly parent, or, their health suffered as an executive and now they want to turn over a new leaf. Knowing that ahead of time is going to help you make decisions on how you build your business such that it feeds your overall life and not just the piece that you do for work. So I always think that's very important. And then the other thing is to really delve deeply into what your value is, and this is where developing a really clear and compelling value proposition is important. And if you've got time to do it, it's even better, because then you can go test it with some folks. But this is the piece that I think a lot of folks struggle with, because it's your value proposition, but it's not actually about you and what or your work history. It's about the results that you can help clients achieve that they're willing to pay for. And so being able to articulate the value that that you can provide in a specific market or a niche within that market, and then nailing down how to articulate it so that it's clear, it's compelling, it's not generic, it's not I can be all things to all people, but that when someone hears it or they experience that language in your market, it's going to resonate with them. It's going to resonate with the folks that you most want as clients. And it's just going to be easier for you to get clients once you enter the market, because this is the part where I've seen a lot of consultants have to go back and backtrack because they didn't do that. And then they got in front of prospective clients and they weren't saying anything that was really clear or compelling.
Yeah, those are some really good things that you can get going. I'd add a couple. One would be around relationships, both existing
Yeah.
relationships and new relationships. So one thing that I encourage folks to think about doing is it's so awkward to like call up someone from 6 years ago when you just started your consulting firm, and now it's kind of clear, even if you don't say it explicitly, that you're fishing for a project. Whereas if you are still in a job and have a year, then make a list of your core network and call one person every day just to sort of reignite those relationships, or reach out to peers at other companies that are not competitive to just build relationships with peers. Like if you're head of data analytics, reach out to the head of data analytics at 100 other firms. And then once you go independent, then you can you've gotten to know those people.
Yeah. Love it. I love that. Yeah, because the last thing you want to do is people only hear from you when you want something. We've all been on the receiving end of that. It's not pleasant. So yeah, you build your network and you care and nurture for your network before you need anything.
Yeah. I think folks can also, in some cases, may want to invest in their skills. So if it's a senior
Yes.
executive and they haven't done Excel or PowerPoint for 10 years because they have a staff, it might be time to refresh those skills a little bit. And then the other thing is you could work on getting some of the infrastructure in place. You could, get your name, register the domain, build a
Yeah,
website. Even if it's not public, you can have your website up and designed. You can get just like your QuickBooks set up and LLC
that's
and,
right.
and all that infrastructure, so that when you are ready to go, you're not kind of going through all that administrative piece.
That's right, which is going to take time away from building your business and doing the good work that you want to do. And I've seen folks scramble because they didn't have those things in place. And now they have to send a proposal and they don't actually have a template. They don't actually know what their terms and conditions are. So doing any of that ahead of time is a great thing to do.
Yeah. Now, an interesting part of your business that I'd like to hear about more is you not only coach independent consultants, but you also work with boutique consulting firms, advising them on how to do better business development. Could you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So basically what that's about is if you have, and it's typically for firms where they hire people whose job it is to go get business and actually do the work. So it's not necessarily the model of, there is a, principal or a partner selling and then, graduate students or others come in to do the work. It's typically geared towards the type of consulting that I'm used to, which is I was hired because I know how to do good things and clients love working with me, and I have to go get the business. So what the best way to do it is usually my online course, because there's things that they can just do. It's a nice sort of bulk way to get it for a firm. But the piece that I have found that is absolutely essential is adding some additional coaching to that. And the coaching can be for a particular problem that an individual consultant's having. So maybe, they've tried a bunch of things and their confidence just has taken a dive. And so you can learn all of these strategies and techniques, but if your confidence is low or your mindset's not in the right place and it's at odds with what the outcomes you're trying to achieve, helping folks get past that type of paralysis, or helping folks decide among multiple decisions. Sort of the joke in my healthcare consulting practice is that I cure decision-making disorders. And that's actually often why I will be brought in is, you get somebody who's having a hard time making decisions, or groups that are grumpy and can't make decisions together, and I help them make decisions. So often it's something like that, or it's something really surgical. I have this particular high value engagement that we are going to go in and try and get. How should we prepare? In which case I can help prepare with that. But really, I think firms ultimately want to establish the way that they do business development so that you can also build support around it. So for example, firm I was working with has, I created a checklist, and that checklist is for the folks who are, overseeing the consultants who are going out and getting business, so that they knew here's what they're learning how to do, here's the actions that they're supposed to be taking, and they can get support for that throughout the process, so that it becomes a normal way of working within the firm itself. And then if on the coaching side, if I need to sort of swoop in and help solve a problem or just get somebody unstuck, I can do that.
So, when you're working with a boutique firm, is there like a diagnostic that you do when you first
Oh,
start?
yes.
Some kind of formal checklist that you'll go through to sort of see where they're at. If so,
Yeah.
what are some of the things on that?
So, absolutely, because every firm might share some of the same problems, but they might have their particular version or flavor of it, or simply because of the way they've been doing things, they might have a problem that is truly unique to them. So typically what I like to do is I like to talk to the leadership. I have, it's a sort of a semi-structured interview that I go through, because what I don't do is I don't just send a survey, because I know that I'm not going to get really helpful information back. So it's a conversation. I will ask questions. I have probing questions. I'm listening for what gets said and what doesn't get said. So, for example, I will ask about what, because typically why I come in is to help them get consulting clients. So I will ask them not just what their problems are, but what data they're collecting, what they've seen in the data that suggests it. Sometimes what I find out is they're not tracking it. They feel like they don't have a problem because they don't have enough people busy, but they really haven't been paying attention to, is it everybody? Is it just a few people? Is it your new hires are taking longer to learn how to get clients? Do you have some people who are in the feast or famine cycle? That's the type of information I'm trying to solicit to get at what really is the problem that needs to be solved. And then that helps me say, is the course the solution? So it's no different than when you're consulting. Is the course the solution for what your actual problem is? Or maybe you need something else. So maybe it is you've got 4 people who are struggling, but you don't want to let them go. You want to give them a chance to make it. And maybe the solution is that they need some more intense coaching. The solution could just be you hired a bunch of smart people and they don't know how to do this because no one ever taught them, and that's all they need to learn. So it's those types of things that I'm querying for. If I'm able, I also do like to talk to some of the folks who would actually be consuming some of the assistance, because I might get some more insight from talking to them. So I'd want to know, where are you getting stuck? So there's a group, it was a particular office that was having a problem. And I went in and basically laid out, here's, typical business development process. We're going to go step by step, and we're going to talk about where you're getting stuck. And it was an interesting dynamic, because they said, oh, we can skip the first part. We're fine with that. And I said, let's go through that. And what it turned out to be is, no, that's exactly where they were having a problem, but they thought they were fine. So that helped me very specifically hone in on, to get this office on track, here's what they need.
Excellent. So Deb, thank you so much for joining today. This was really awesome, hearing about your practice and how you're helping folks, get started as consultants, as well as with boutiques. Listeners, you can go to craftofconsulting.com if you want to check out some of those courses that Deb mentioned. And is there any other contact info you want to share, Deb? Your Twitter handle or anything else?
Well, you can actually find that if you go to the website. If you want to follow me on LinkedIn, is where I actually post a lot of things. I have a lot of videos where I give tips, and you can find that at either Craft of Consulting or Deb Zahn. But the other thing is, I also do, because just like you, I love to podcast. So I do have a podcast called The Craft of Consulting. And that's also where I have, similar to you, I have guests come on who talk about their consulting business. I have clients come on, which is some of the best episodes, and they talk about what they like and don't like and why they wouldn't hire people. And occasionally I have nerdy people come on that talk about things like, change management, or how does LinkedIn actually work, so that you know that when you're trying to do marketing on LinkedIn, you're doing it right.
Excellent. So check that out, Craft of Consulting podcast. Deb, thanks for coming on the show.
I appreciate it. This was wonderful. Thank you.